Hello, Pod Smashers of the Internet, and welcome to another episode of Termite's Buzz, episode 39, with your host, me, Termite, runs you through some trophies and games that I'm playing, some industry news, and followed up by a retro discussion. Today's episode will be a little bit different, probably a lot shorter. I'm just going to mostly talk about Mario Wonder and Spider-Man 2, and then there's one piece of news that's kind of small in the grand scheme of things that I wanted to update everyone on regarding Xbox. So that would be cool. And I hope to find you well. I am extremely busy in the very last throngs of marathon training, getting all of the biggest, hardest, longest workouts and runs in for the cycle, as well as kicking up for Halloween. Today is Friday. My kid is home from school at Halloween weekend, so we're gearing up for all of that. Lots of busyness. Agro-tourism fall season is in full swing. I don't know if you all do anything for that. Pumpkin patches and orchards and all of the things. You go to farms, you do the stuff, you get the things, all of that. So I'm very tired. Last weekend I didn't have anything left. My wife went on a backpacking trip, and I was with both children for the entire weekend. And it was the release weekend for Spider-Man 2 and Mario Wonder, but I also had a 20-mile run on Friday last week. So I had a super long run to get done while the kids were in school, followed by gearing up for a single parenting for the weekend. So that's why there was no episode recorded, as I'm doing this all on my own, recording, producing, editing, and throwing it out there. So I apologize for that. But as you all know, the show is coming to an end at some point. I don't know exactly when that will be yet, but it does not look like 80-Bit Pod Smash is going to come back, and I'm going to sunset Termite's Buzz because it is kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back of my life, and it's causing more stress than it is worth the fun that I was having with it. But Termite's not going anywhere. I'm still going to use the same handles online, same Twitter account, same Twitch account. Live streaming will probably still happen, and our episodes aren't going anywhere. I'm not going to turn the hosting off, so all of our previous episodes will stay available. All of our social media outlets, everything that we usually point to at 80bitpodsmash.com will all still be alive and well, so you can still find me on all of our socials. Me and Penguin are still... Well, I don't know if Penguin's active as much, but I'm still active. I still tweet and retweet things. I'm still hoping to go to the Game Awards this year, waiting for the lovely information to drop about public tickets, and I hope to meet some other industry professionals out there. It would be a dream of mine, as well as 2023 being one of the best years for video games we've ever had. So I'm excited about that prospect. For T-Bone's 40th birthday, I promised an attempt to get to the Game Awards. So with that, what have I been playing and what trophies have I been up to? Well, as a pickup from the last time we had talked, before I branch off into new things, I was still messing with Mortal Kombat 1, and I do want to talk about one specific trophy in Mortal Kombat 1 that's kind of annoying, only because it can be reset, and that is one that's tied to the Invasions mode. And the Invasions mode's kind of like a season, and this is like the games as a service aspect of Mortal Kombat 1. And it's like this big board game-ish looking thing, and you go from node to node, and each node you have like a challenge. Either it's a fight, or it's a test your might, or it's some survival thing. And that's all fine and dandy. It's super grindy. It's very shallow. And there's like 6 worlds you have to get through, and you have to go in order because it's like I said, it's kind of like a board game, so one piece connects to the next. You can't really skip around until you beat everything. But there is a trophy tied to the boss of it. I'm trying to find what it's called. And it is... Okay, the trophy is called Vanquished, or the achievement if you're playing on Xbox. And the unlock conditions are defeat the final boss of an Invasions season. So the seasons only run like 30 days, I think. So if you happen to start an invasion... and you go through, and you're going through, and you're doing the grind. It takes, 6 to 8 hours to get through it. Say you get like 7 hours in, and you happen to hit like a life hiccup where you can't get to it for a couple days, and the season resets, you lose all your progress. You got to start all over. So that's kind of annoying. I made sure that I played it a lot to get through it before that would happen to avoid it, but it's just something annoying. I don't know why developers put those kinds of trophies in there that are hidden behind there, but it's dumb. So I am still working toward the platinum in Mortal Kombat 1. The most grindiest one is to completely master 5 cameo characters. And as you use cameo characters, they get experience. And when you level up, you unlock cosmetics for them, and max level's 15, that's mastery. And the hilarious part is you can go through the entire campaign, you can go through the entirety of an invasions mode, which is probably like 15 hours of game time, and you will not max out one cameo, and you have to max out five cameos. So immediately upon looking at anything online, there's already ways that you can use auto hotkey and remote play on your PC to grind stuff. You can just grind away at experience over and over again, and there's methods on how to do that. So I plan to do that, and it takes like 10-ish hours, I believe, for each one if it's grinded. If you're specifically grinding XP using that, so it's 50 hours of just letting an auto script run to get trophies. It's the stupidest thing. I don't know why. Mortal Kombat 11 had the same thing. I used auto hotkey and remote play to unlock most of its trophies as well. But it's just what it is. Trophy hunters have to live this life in order to get platinums. That's what you have to do. I was also playing Resident Evil 4. I'd started that up. I have 8 trophies so far out of, I don't even know. I wasn't planning on platinuming Resident Evil 4. I'm following a collectibles guide, going through the campaign on the easiest difficulty, just to get the story and the mood, the mood, the vibes, the stories, the fun. I loved Resident Evil 2 and 3. Did the exact same thing. I ended up platinuming Resident Evil 3 because the unlimited weapons, like the rocket launcher and stuff, made the hard modes so fun and easy that I enjoyed it enough to get the platinum. So I'm hoping the same thing will happen with Resident Evil 4. And given that it's like Halloween and spooky time, I'm motivated to play. It's really, really fun. It's just as solid as Resident Evil 2 and 3 as far as how it feels and looks. It's gorgeous. Everything about the game so far is great. So I'm enjoying it, but I'm not super far in. I just got past like the lake monster fight, which is very early in the game. So a lot of mystery, a couple of characters have shown up, and you don't know who they are or what they're doing there as you search for the president's daughter. So that's kind of fun. But really what I want to talk about is that Spider-Man 2 and Super Mario Bros. Wonder both came out last Friday. I picked them both up on release day. I didn't get a whole lot of time to play them, except for Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I got more time to play it because it's more kid-friendly, and it's co-op, so I was able to play it with my 8-year-old. So this is a brand new Mario game, and those don't come very often. In fact, I believe the last one that we actually got that was new was Super Mario Bros. Odyssey, which was 6 years ago. And Super Mario Bros. Wonder is a 2D side-scrolling Mario game. So when it was first announced, I was thinking this would be like the next step in the new Super Mario Bros. Series of games. I believe there's 4 of those. So if you remember, there was new Super Mario Bros. On the DS, there was new Super Mario Bros. Wii, there was new Super Mario Bros. Wii U, and then new Super Mario Bros. 2 on the 3DS. That was the one about the gold coins. Those games are pretty like copy-paste, kind of bland. Like anyone could create these kind of levels, Mario Maker-y type things. And of course those modes were featured in Mario Maker, and you could make levels like that, but people were making games that were more appealing and more innovative in that Mario Maker engine than Nintendo could make on their own. That's how bland the new Super Mario Bros. Games were. So when this was announced, I was like, oh, well, okay, they're calling it something different, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and I'll lay it out. It's amazing, and it's a whole new Mario game, and I feel just as excited playing this kind of as I was when we were playing Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo, which was huge at the time. Going from the Nintendo to the Super Nintendo, the evolution from Mario 3 to Mario World was incredible. But I'll even go another step further. I would equate Super Mario Bros. Wonder as more akin to Yoshi's Island, which would be Super Mario Bros. 2 with Baby Mario on the back of Yoshi. And I say that because Super Mario Bros. Wonder is weird. It's weird, it's wacky, it's hilarious. I find myself cracking up at stuff I just don't expect. It's completely unpredictable. And what I really love about like the level design is that there's nothing cookie cuttery or bland. Like each individual level is extremely unique, and there's a Wonder Flower in almost every single level that completely is unpredictable. You have no clue. You would not be able to, unless you played it before, predict what's going to happen when you hit a Wonder Flower. Like massive enemies can come in and like destroy the level. A flood of bubbles can erupt from the bottom, and you have to bounce all the way up into space. Your character can turn into different types of enemies, and you can like navigate differently. There's even a Wonder Flower that throws you onto the background, like a top-down view floor, but you're on the wall, so you're like walking up the wall in the background. background. It's amazing. Like, there's just so many cool things. I had a moment on the Switch OLED where the lights turn out, and so it's all like shadowy, and you have to play in the shadows. But the OLED dark, like the perfect contrast, makes it so you really can't see if Mario being a shadow itself is in front of another thing that's also a shadow. So you get completely lost. Which, like, the difficulty curves, they kind of spike and come down. The game feels amazing. It's weighty. It's not super floaty, and it's really snappy. So you don't have that long, like, I don't know, New Super Mario Brothers, I felt like you floated everywhere, and every time you switched directions really quickly, you skidded for like an hour before you could actually get traction again. So it felt like slippery and slow, whereas Mario Brothers Wonder is not. It's very fast and snappy. I love the animations. There is a little bit of a claymation style animation to some of the objects in the levels and some of how the characters move, but it's mixed in with like completely fluid 60 frames per second animation. So the combination of both is really, really cool. I think it's super colorful. The music slaps. You got to have good music when it comes to Mario. You got to have new tunes. They really did like redo everything. Nothing looks the same. Nothing sounds the same. Even Mario's jump or the jump sound effect across all the characters is different. All the voices are new and refreshed. There are brand new enemies everywhere. There's like they paid homage to some of old Mario levels. So like if you remember at the end of Super Mario World, if you beat the secret super special world that you would have to go up using like the stars to traverse into the sky, if you beat all of the special world, it would change the enemies like into little pumpkin head type enemies. Well, those are in this Super Mario Brothers Wonder as like a regular but 3D rendered, and it's really like a cool little throwback. There's like throwbacks to the spaceship levels in Mario 3. I don't want to spoil too much of the game. I'm just kind of giving you a high level. But it's super charming. I'm not done with it yet. I'm probably 2/3 of the way through the game. Each level has what like Wonder Seeds is kind of the big collectible, like analogous to Mario 64 stars. Each level has like 2 or 3 Wonder Seeds, and sometimes it requires you to finish the level differently, which is a homage to Super Mario World, where you'd have different exits. You can kind of blow through the flag post and keep going, or you can find a different way through the level to get a different exit. So that is all super, super fun. What else is there about Mario Wonder that I love so much? But the zaniness, the wackiness, I feel like that's more akin to Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, because like the magic would come in and it would like transform enemies. Kamek would do weird zany things. The Mode 7 animations were wild on the Super Nintendo, and I feel like this game kind of has that same vibe, which I picked up on that from the reveal trailers and the gameplay. But having the game in your hand, like playing it yourself, you really do feel that kind of weird. Like, because even in Yoshi's Island, you can transform your character like a helicopter or train and like do crazy stuff. And in Super Mario Brothers Wonder, you can do the same thing. It's the kind of stuff that they've thrown in that you would not be able to think of how this could fit into Super Mario Maker, and that is wild, and it's awesome. I like that, because if you can boil down like, oh, I can create any Mario level in the world, to me that's kind of like the blandest way to put a Mario level together, where Super Mario Brothers Wonder has like the more like bespoke kind of unique level design with each individual sub-level of the worlds. The world map is fun. It's cool to explore. There are hidden levels throughout. I've had to look some stuff up because I like to 100% complete things as I go. And there's like big purple coins. There's 3 of them in each level, and it does track if you've collected them all. I'm not super worried about that yet. I don't think I need to at the moment. The Wonder Seeds are the big collectible that I want to 100%, and there is a special world that's just like Super Mario World 1. It is in the sky, and it's hidden, and you can find it. And each world has 1 level, and there's 7 worlds, so there's 7 levels in the special. And the difficulty is indicated by like how many stars. The difficulty is definitely the highest, 5 stars up there. I haven't played those levels yet. I've gone up there and I've seen a couple of them there, but I haven't like played them. So I don't find the difficulty to be too much, but people are saying it's super easy. I don't feel that way. Like, it's not so easy it's boring. I am getting through at a pretty good clip. I'm not struggling too much. Like, if I see something, I can, die and redo it, and it takes me a couple of tries, but there's nothing like I'm getting stuck or frustrated or anything. I haven't seen anything by way of like cool boss fights. You do fight Bowser Jr. at the end of each level, and he's got his own unique things, which is kind of it's fine, but I want more variety in the actual bosses themselves, which I loved about Mario World 2. Yoshi's Island had so many unique fights, whereas this one is just like it's Bowser Jr. again, but he does something different and in a different environment, and that's fine. It does mix it up, but I don't know. I was kind of hoping for like cooler boss fights, so that might be a ding against it. And other than that, I mean, like the look, the feel, the graphics, the sounds, how everything plays, the whole like production of the whole thing. I totally see why this is getting 9s on the internet, like in review cycles, because it's fantastic. And playing it on a Switch OLED, the colors pop like crazy. It's gorgeous. It looks better on my handheld than it does on my TV. And I have a 4K TV. It's just not OLED, so it's, kind of different. And yeah, the multiplayer aspect, I can talk about that. I'm playing with my 8-year-old son, and he's super excited about this because this is Mario. I remember when I was in 3rd grade, this was like post Mario World. So Mario World came out when I was in like 1st or 2nd, and I remember being super enamored by it. But Mario 64 didn't come out until I was in 5th grade, and I think we skipped Mario World 2 because friends had it, so we just played it there. So I didn't have that level of excitement of having the Mario game in my house. But so I'm trying to put myself in my son's age, like 3rd grade. Okay, what was I playing? What was I was excited about? And I totally am like trying to play into it to boost up his I wanted to remember it. I wanted to have like fond excitement about it. So I picked the game up on that Friday. He got off the bus. I was like, we got Mario Wonder. We're gonna play it together. And I quickly remembered how different our kids play video games so differently than I do. Like I want to get all of the things, do all the secrets. And when you're playing this multiplayer Mario game, it is infinitely better than New Super Mario Brothers ever was. And the biggest difference is collisions are turned off. So you can't bump into each other. You run right through each other. You don't bounce off each other's head. So it's way easier to navigate the levels themselves. You can still throw enemies into each other. You can still like smack each other with shells. And you can still steal each other's items. So that's kind of, all those annoyances are there. But the focus of me is to complete the level. I want to see the secrets, and my son just wants to finish the level, so he like barrels on ahead and scrolls the screen way faster than I'm like, no, we come back, we have to do this, and then he immediately wants to quit and give up, and it wasn't like a super good time. I have to completely adjust my paradigms in order to play with him. I have to forego 100% completion. I just have to like focus on like what he wants, which is to just finish the level or, get the power-ups. He loves the power-ups. So, like, I have to let him have them all and try to play with him and make it fun for him. In doing so, it's great. It's fantastic. I'm having a father-son connection. We're playing Mario Wonder together. We played through, like, the first 3 worlds together. It's just a little funny insight for parents that are like, oh, I love playing video games with my kids. Well, I do too, but when dad is a gamer, there's difference you just have to think about with who's playing what for what reasons. Not everybody is a achievement trophy collection completionist 100% person like I am, and so I just have to turn that gear off. So one other frustration about the multiplayer is that you have this crown that is awarded the player who hits the flag post first. And, of course, my son's obsessed with it because he's got to have the crown all the time. And I'm like, that's fine, but the crown is who is in control of everything on the world map and the dialogue. So when he has the crown, it's skipping all the dialogue. I don't want to skip the dialogue. I want to read what it says. It's skipping all the tutorials. It's rushing to the next thing. He wants to go ahead. Like, if there's 5 levels, but you only need to do 2, he wants to do the 2 and move on. So like he's moving on past, and I'm like, wait, no, I want to get these extra levels. Like I want to do all of the things. I want to see the whole game. I don't want to skip ahead. He wants to skip ahead and rush on. And so very different play styles. But this crown, you can't change who owns it. And I wish there was a setting in the options where it's like give this to player 1 all the time for like adults versus kids, because this kind of thing is happening. And so he's skipping stuff, and I have to go back and like redo the things that he missed, and it's kind of annoying. So this crown thing, I'm not the only one that's had this complaint. I've seen it on Twitter too. Kind of dumb. Nintendo needs to have a way to force it to lock it to the adult playing if they're doing an adult to kid. It's fine if like you have 4 kids, they're all playing together, whatever, parents aren't involved. But if you do have like a younger child, even younger than 8, like I have a 4-year-old who would love to play, but there's no way he's going to understand what it means to like go talk to this and go to this world in this order. He's not going to have a clue. So having like the parent be able to lock in the crown, the controlling player that controls everything, would be a great bump in multiplayer. I haven't dabbled in any of the online stuff. It sounds pretty cool. I've seen some videos online, and to me, it's just a little chaotic. I wouldn't mind turning it on. The way it's like a kind of an asynchronous-ish maybe not asynchronous, but you have, like, when you're online, you are playing through the level by yourself, or if you have co-op friends, but then there's like all these shadows of everybody else who's also playing that level online. So I guess Nintendo like groups together certain players to like servers to, I don't know, like locality. I have no clue who you get paired with. I think it's pretty random. You don't get to pick, but like there's other characters running around in the level, and you can kind of do a Death Stranding, like set up a standee, and that can give you a power up, it can give you extra life, it can give you a warning, kind of like Elden Ring or any of the other Souls games where you can like leave a message for other players and you can see the shadows of the other players in your world. That's how the multiplayer is for online with this game. And I haven't touched it. Like I said, it's too chaotic. I don't want to be focused on that. I want to pay attention to the levels. I want to play the game all the way through on my own first or with my son, because I've used both I have one playthrough. I've done most of the worlds in the beginning with my son, and then I've continued to play when he's not around. And so I'm working my way through the game. I think I'm in World 5 of 7. So, haven't really dabbled with online. I don't really know how much fun or not that is. So if you care to know more about that, maybe I'll talk about it later if I go circle back around and mess with the whole online world mode thing. But Super Mario Bros. Wonder is definitely, people are touting it as the best Mario since Mario World. I agree. I think it's right up there with the best. Absolutely fantastic. A breath of fresh air. Totally better than anything in the new Super Mario Bros. Worlds. Those games are nothing compared to Super Mario Bros. Wonder. So I eagerly await the next 3D Mario adventure. I imagine if the Switch 2 really is upon us for next year, we'll likely have another 3D Mario soon. That'd be cool. But I like this departure from like the movie. I was scared that when the movie had come out, they were going to do all this tie-in, all these like try to make it all one thing, and they're not. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is very different from the Mario movie. You're in an entirely different kingdom. You're in the Flower Kingdom. And none of the voices or the actors are the same, and like it doesn't seem like there's any references at all. So that's great. I hope it stays that way. Let the movie verse be its movie thing, and let the games be their movie or their game thing, and keep them separate. Keep it safe. Yeah, that's Super Mario Bros. Wonder and my take on it. Can't wait to play more. And then, one other thing I will talk about with that, because it came out on the same day as Spider-Man 2. And this is very cool because modern video games today in 2023, the majority of gamers, I would say, are now like my age, because we kind of grew up with games and like appreciate them and evolve with games. Back when Mario World, for example, in the 90s had come out, the market for video games, who was buying them, who was consuming them, was very different than today. So now it's way more mainstream. It's way more bigger captive audience. And games like Spider-Man, big single-player cinematic set pieces are kind of what push the medium forward. And so you have like God of War, Horizon. This is what PlayStation is so good at. But even games like Starfield that has come out this year, they're these big narrative RPGs, big narrative single-player type games. Those are like what are analogous to what Super Mario World was back in the 90s. Like that was the quintessential type of video game back then. And so it's cool to have this contrast on release day of both Mario Wonder, which is an iteration of what was the top creme de la creme of video games back in the 90s, to today where we have Spider-Man 2, which is like the top tier creme de la creme of video games. And some people would relegate Nintendo or Mario off as like being family or kiddie, whereas back in the 90s, Nintendo was king. And that was like, video games were, Sega Genesis was there, Sonic the Hedgehog, of course, but look at the similarities between what Sega was pushing out and what Nintendo was pushing out back in the 90s. Look at the similarities between what Microsoft is trying to push out and what PlayStation's pushing out. Obviously, PlayStation's ahead in their first-party games, but they're still kind of like big, realistic-looking, rendered set-piece type things. And Microsoft doesn't really have a lot right now, but what they have produced, Starfield being the example, and then all the third parties like Baldur's Gate 3, etc. 2023 has been a nuts year for games anyway, so it's really cool to have the whole context of this year alongside with what I'm trying to articulate, and that's neat to see Super Mario Bros. Wonder come out and not be lauded. Like, I don't think it can win Game of the Year. Super Mario Bros. Wonder. It'll definitely win Family Game of the Year for sure. But Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, would be in the running for the actual like Game of the Year award. And so look at what Zelda is, Tears of the Kingdom, this big open world, sprawling, big RPG, versus like Mario Wonder, which is a 2D side-scrolling platformer. It's just interesting to see how far we've come in video games in general. It's a cool like nostalgia twist, and I hope what I'm articulating is kind of coming through. Seeing Super Mario Brothers Wonder not be the top representation or example of what video games can do at all, but still be the iteration on what used to be the example and definitive example of what video games were if it was the 90s. So it's cool. We've come a long way. Video games are great. They're awesome. Spider-Man 2 is absolutely incredible. If you liked the first one, if you liked Miles Morales, it's all of that with quality of life adjustments. It's better, bigger, more beautiful, more animations, more variations to things, more power-ups. The story, I'm not super far in the story because, again, I'm a completionist. So as things pop up on the map, I'm going to go knock those out. So I spend way more time between story beats than I probably should. So I haven't even seen, like, the big presentation that they first unveiled Spider-Man 2 was when Lizard was, like, swimming under the water and, like, around the bridge. I haven't even gotten to that yet. If you're playing the game and like you see, like I've seen the reveal of Kraven the Hunter that they've shown in pre-release footage in the game. I saw that, but outside of that, I'm like all the side stuff, all the side quests. I am continued, like my mind was absolutely blown with fast travel. It's weird because I've been playing games for 30 some years. Like I know in my knowledge, like my head knowledge knows the PlayStation 5's solid state drive is something to be like, it's crazy because it's not just an NVMe version 4 or generation 4 drive. It also has like proprietary firmware and software under it that allows the compression of the files to move through the solid state drive at a faster rate than like a PC game could, like a developer could make one game engine do the same thing on PC, but there's nothing like across the entirety of the PC platform that would allow this to happen. Like PlayStation 5, everything runs through this thing. So it's like it's a low-level like API that allows 9 gigs per second of data because they can compress. And so even though the transfer rate is like 6 gigs per second, they can push more through because of this whole compression-decompression thing, and it's amazing. So that's kind of the low-level tech behind what I'm about to describe. But you're in the map, you see New York City, and if you've seen screenshots of it, it's like neon blue with like the buildings are all light blue, and it's 3D, so you can see how high buildings are. All you do is move your cursor to where you want to go, anywhere in the city. Now you have to unlock fast travel in a specific neighborhood, which it's outlined. So you see like a big square, and you can fast travel anywhere inside this square because you've done enough side quests and stuff in this square to unlock fast travel for it. But there's no fast travel points. There's no landmarks, there's no flags or anything that locks you out of, like, you have to fast travel here, and that just happens to be the closest spot to where you want to go. No. You go straight to where you want to be and in the map, and you hold triangle, and you see a little progress bar across the bottom as you hold the button, and as soon as it's loaded, the camera zooms into the map. Boom, it's New York City. It's not the map anymore, and Spider-Man's right there. Blows you away. No load times, no fade to black, no screen transitions. It's straight up from the map into New York City. Anywhere you want to go, instantly. That's incredible. Now, there are 2 Spider-Men. There's Peter Parker and Miles Morales, and you can switch between the 2. What's neat, there are side quests that are only specific to each Spider-Man. So you can't do Miles missions for Peter and vice versa. So if you are Peter and you walk up to a Miles Morales waypoint for a side quest, it'll prompt you, press square to switch Spider-Man. And you press square, and boom, the other Spider-Man like swings in, and you're right there. It's fantastic. I don't know how to... I've never tried the whole, like, if you do switch Spider-Man, like, randomly, you'll just go to wherever the other one is, because I haven't had a reason to do that yet. I'm just kind of moving my way through side stuff. So who knows what'll happen later, but yeah, the loading speeds continue to blow me away on PlayStation 5, because, like, Final Fantasy 16 was probably the closest example that we got this year to it, but it had a traditional fade to black with a tip text, you know, in the bottom. It was just really fast, which is fine. But this is different. This is like programmed into the engine of the game to load so much faster that it's just instantaneous transition. Like even Ghost of Tsushima, which has amazing load times on PlayStation 4, had a fade to black transition with like a tip text. And this is so much cooler than that. I love just the instant transition. Like, no, you're not out of the game at all. It's like, doesn't break immersion whatsoever. It's fantastic. Voice acting, animations, character animations are all an upgrade off of the first Spider-Man games. The city is more lush, more vibrant. There's more cars, more density. There's more people. The buildings are more detailed. The ray tracing is phenomenal. There's a whole interview Digital Foundry did with the lead developer at Insomniac. They went into detail about all the ray tracing technology. There's even like the interior rooms of skyscrapers also have like varying people in them doing stuff, so you can see like random characters doing yoga or playing video games or watching TV through like the skyscrapers. It all makes it seem super real, and the way like the ray trace reflections are in there. In the performance modes, there's like the 30 FPS, of course, perfect like fidelity mode, and then there's like performance mode 60 frames per second, and then there's a performance mode ray traced version, and they pulled that right out of the old Spider-Man games, so it uses ray tracing and all three modes have ray tracing turned on. It's just how extreme do you want it? And so it's kind of neat. I'm playing on the mode that is performance ray traced, and you can turn on 120 hertz mode to auto and variable refresh rate on, and it unlocks the frame rate so that you can get into the 40s, which is a step up from performance. Actually, that's what I have it on. I'm sorry. I have it on fidelity mode, but I have the frame rate uncapped, and I have VRR turned on. So what happens is, instead of it being limited to 30 frames per second, it allows the frame rate to go into the 40s and 50s, and with variable refresh rate, which is a TV-specific feature, my TV has it, it allows the frame pacing to be lined up so that the rendered frames line up with the TV refresh rate, and it looks buttery smooth. It kind of fakes out the slower frame rate, so it makes it feel like 60 frames per second, even though it's not. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's awesome. I'm here for that. I wish every game did that. God of War Ragnarok did the same thing, and it's a perfect alternative to the 60 frames per second love that we have, which I love 60 frames per second, but we are quickly getting out of that world now as they're starting to utilize more of the tech on the PS5. Like, I switched Final Fantasy 16 down to 30 frames per second because I loved how much better it looked. And it's starting to get to the point now where I can see the concessions that need to be made in order to keep a game at 60. When the resolution drops and the level of detail distance goes down, I'm just like, there's too much pop in, it's too blurry. I want that crisp 4K, as close to 4K as possible image. And using things like DLSS, which is like the AI scaling, you can render at a lower resolution and then upscale. So Digital Foundry goes into great detail about all of that with Spider-Man. It takes full use of all of those technologies. The game is incredible. It looks great. I just wish I had more story. I can't really judge the story yet. Other than that, it's engaging, and I'm enjoying it so far. I can't compare it to the other Spider-Man games because I haven't played through a whole lot, so I haven't really gotten through any of the big story moments. It's just been like a whole big side quest machine for me right now, which I'm good with because I want to front load all of the boring, grindy stuff. And yes, the side content, some are amazing and some are not. There were 2 or 3 actual side quests that you do that were extremely touching, that kind of got me a little emotional, but not like on the verge of tears, but like, aw, like that's really, really sweet. And so those are like those Witcher 3 style side quests where you have more depth and more meaning into them. And I've completed like 2 of those. The rest are just like go around and do the things and collect the stuffs and do the stuff, you know, like swing around the city and go to this point, fight all the bad guys and unlock the token, and then go to the next thing and fight all the bad guys, unlock the token, and rinse and repeat. So I've been doing a lot of that. And the combat system is fine. There's a lot they throw at you. It's kind of overwhelming, especially when you level up and you unlock new skill tree points and like new stuff. There's just so much that Spider-Man can do. I kind of lose track of what I'm doing, and then I fall back on like a specific set of combos that work, and then I don't really pay more attention to. There's so many different devices. There's like web devices. There's all these special moves between Peter Parker and Miles Morales that you can do. So to me, I really wish that was more streamlined, or there was like a little bit of a simplification of it, because you have to like hold L1 for some stuff, hold R1 for some stuff, and I'm not going to remember in the moment what buttons, or first off, what I want to do. Oh, I want to launch all of the enemies into the air, and I want to make sure that I take care of all of them before they hit the ground. What are the sequences of events that I need to make that happen? That doesn't happen to me. It's like, oh, I've lifted everyone up off the ground, and I fought like one enemy, and the rest fell back to the ground and are starting to attack me again because I completely have no clue what I'm doing. Maybe that'll come with more experience, but the tutorials in the beginning are good. They're good enough to get you off the ground, but once you start getting into the skill tree and like seeing all the different abilities, it's kind of like, Nah, I can't. I'm not going to remember to do this. And you can always go back and look if you want to refresh it, but what I'm doing works, so I'm not feeling like it lacks. Like, I have these cool things I can do, but I don't feel like I need them, so why are they there? Kind of thing is how I feel. I love the new web wings traversing the city with the little, like, squirrel suit, if you will, for lack of a better word, is really fun. It's faster than web slinging. So if you're web slinging and you know you have to go somewhere in the distance, it's best for you to either launch yourself off a building or jump at the peak of a swing and then fly with the wings. It feels a little weighty, so it is a glide. You're not flying indefinitely, so you slowly lose altitude. And then when you go below a certain threshold, it's probably in your best interest to start web slinging again so you don't hit the ground. So web sling again, and then rinse and repeat, and you can really fly around. It's really cool, and I guess they have allowed that to happen because no limitations in the hard drive streaming speeds that they experienced in the first Spider-Man on PlayStation 4 that didn't have this awesome solid-state tech. So Insomniac at its peak prime. Some people are throwing around like this is an S-tier game. So, we've talked about AAA. This is a AAA game. Well, is there a new echelon of game? Is this S tier? I'm not sure. I will leave that up to y'all. I find this to just be AAA. There's very minor bugs, like just enough to make me be like, okay, this is AAA at its best, but not a new echelon, not a new tier of game. But it is definitively a PlayStation 5 game. Like, this is something, if you own a PS5, you must play this game on it because it's using all of the tech, the DualSense controller to its fullest extent, the solid state to its fullest extent. It's amazing single player, big story beats, like crazy awesome set pieces that rival like what I felt when I played Uncharted 2 on the PlayStation 3 for the first time, when you're fighting a group of enemies in a collapsing building and it's all like cohesive and it makes sense. Spider-Man has moments like that all the time in its main story. So while I'm running around doing side quests, of course, I'm not seeing that. But if you were to just mainline the story, it's all amazing set pieces that are not just cheap QuickTime events, that are actually like you playing it. It's great. So all of the atmosphere things, the music, all of the things that draw you in are all perfect, top-notch. Voice acting's good, all that stuff. So it's kind of my review of Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Spider-Man 2. Excellent stuff. What a time to be alive. What amazing games coming out right here at the end of 2023 in the same year that we got a new Zelda and a new Final Fantasy and Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield, and the list goes on of all of these amazing games. Sea of Stars for the indie side. I had one news story I wanted to get to that was just kind of a nod to Xbox and things that's going on over there. Sarah Bond was promoted to president of Xbox, and she will be reporting directly to Phil Spencer. If you don't know who that is, I don't know a whole lot about her. I just know that she's been around in all of the Xbox presentations. But the most exciting thing about it is she's a black woman, and now we have a black woman in the Xbox leadership team. And I saw a tweet today that said 50% of the executive leadership team of Xbox is not white. And that is amazing. Opening voices and allowing more seats at the table, that's diversity. That's saying what you mean or doing what you say and living it out, actively pursuing. That's fantastic. And Sarah Bond is awesome. Everything I've ever seen her around is fantastic. I love what she says. I love how she presents. I love her excitement for the Xbox brand, just like Phil Spencer. So that happened. And with the giant acquisition that's now done, there was an article floating around that quoted Phil Spencer talking about Activision games being on Game Pass in 2023. So during a podcast, Spencer was questioned about recent news that we wouldn't see a massive drop of Activision Blizzard games on Game Pass immediately after the deal finalized, as many had expected. Now, I'm reading Rebecca Valentine's article on IGN, and she's arguably the best writer on the internet when it comes to video games, so please go give her the click. Check this article out on IGN. As it was pointed out, a major flood of Game Pass newcomers happened when Xbox acquired ZeniMax. 20 Bethesda games dropped into the service just days after, including some of the company's biggest franchises. Where, then, are all the Activision Blizzard games? Why is this different? Per Spencer, they're coming, eventually, but the regulatory challenges surrounding this acquisition made it a bit trickier to navigate than the ZeniMax deal, and adding games to Game Pass isn't as simple as flipping a switch to put them on there. The truth of the matter is that with Activision Blizzard King, that the regulatory process took so long, and frankly there was a lot of uncertainty in that process up until really a week before we closed, or the week of, when the CMA finally came down to their decision, that we weren't able to get in and work with mostly Activision Blizzard in this case on that back catalog work, Spencer says. So, now that the deal is closed, we're starting that work. But there is work. And the Twitter handle did put out something that talked about 2024. I think that's accurate. I would love it if there was some kind of secret celebration drop that was coming in the next couple of weeks. There is not. Spencer went on to acknowledge that the lack of a celebratory sudden drop was, quote, a little bit of a downer, but reassured that the games are coming, eventually including Diablo 4 and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. In the same interview, he also reiterated 100% parity for Call of Duty across all platforms, including PlayStation, in keeping with Xbox's 10-year deal with Sony. Xbox's acquisition of Activision Blizzard officially closed last week. Well, from the writing of this article, with Xbox paying $69 billion to fully absorb the giant gaming publisher. So there you have it. The difference between the ZeniMax deal was there was enough acceptance and ease of that happening. There was work happening on the side with ZeniMax to get the games prepped and ready for Game Pass so that when the deal closed, they could drop immediately. Because this was so much bigger and there was so much regulatory process behind it, Microsoft couldn't get with Activision to start that process until right at closing. So it makes sense that the on-ramp for ZeniMax was much faster than this Activision one. And so we'll start to see our Activision Blizzard games on Game Pass soon. And that's going to disrupt and change the entire gaming industry, much like Netflix did when it started digital streaming movies on demand. So more to see about what's going to happen with that. It's a crazy big deal. But I'm going to go ahead and let everybody go. Thanks for joining me again for another episode of listening to Termite's mouth gab on about video games and the excitement therein. I hope to talk to you all soon. I can't really say when I'll be back. I hope I'll be back next week, with a weekly podcast, but who knows if the world will get the best of me. And I'm still talking to Penguin about when we are going to have our final finale 80-bit Pod Smash closeout stream? Maybe? Podcast, definitely. So be in touch with our socials. You can go to 80bitpodsmash, 80bitpodsmash.com. It's our landing website with links to all of our socials. Keep an eye out, like, subscribe, share, whatever, to stay up to date with what's going on. And would love to hear your thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, and ideas. And with that, I will maybe see you next week.